There's a boy on the train platform staying in the wrong place on purpose. They feature a road in South Gate, down the stairs, serve the car from the front. He knows this. He takes the North Gate instead, walks to the far end of the platform, and boards the last car. He explains himself to us. Or sees, nobody I know, no real reason. Watch out. The episode spends 10 minutes providing a lie. If you haven't watched this show, you and I are polar opposites. It's a high school romance. Kocha are serialized on Shonen Jump Plus from 2022 to 2024. Suzuki is loud, warm, and follows her crowd even when she doesn't want to. Tanya is quiet and says exactly what he thinks. She fell for him outside, he fell for her too. They confess in the first value, out of blue, which tells you the show isn't interesting whether they get together. It's interesting in the other four people standing next to them. I must confess, Suzuki and Tani are the least interesting characters in their own series and maybe one of the most boring couples in the genre. They're too predictable. Two nice kids who make Christmas cake and bump their teeth together trying for first kiss. They've done nothing wrong, which is exactly what they've never right. Episode 16 has almost nothing to do with them, and it's the best episode of the season. The first half belongs to Taira and Azuma. The second half belongs to Nishi and Honda. Both halves are the same story told twice. Someone has built a confidence theory about another person. Sooner or later, the theory fails and the correction arrives with no argument and no apology. Nobody gets told they were wrong. They work it out alone, afterward in their own head, and the show gives them the quiet to do it. That is what this episode is about. Revision. Roger Ebert once wrote,
"The dialogue is lovely, not the semi-parody of a lot of film noir, but the words of serious people trying to reveal or conceal themselves."
That is precisely what Agasa achieves here. Shuji Taira made differences. Before high school, he lost the weight, learned to dress, changed his hair, his posture, walked into a new building and someone has built himself. And it worked. You have to look attractive to be attractive. He did. A girl asked him out, and congratulations, no. She dumped it before he knew what happened because he's still the same inside. So he drew the conclusion, the surface was fine, hide the rest of it. He still dresses well. He still gets his hair right. He now works part-time at a convenience store, ranks every person he meets on the invisible ladder, and puts himself somewhere near the bottom rung, which is a comfortable place to stand because nobody climbs up to check on you. Shino Azuma has white hair and history. Wait, maybe a lot of history. Let's just say it's more than Star Wars movies, a few of the Marvel's entire universe. Episode 6. Miyu mentions that his mother was his last girlfriend a long time and they're still on good terms, and Azuma sighs.
That's the youth I wish I'd had. Then, about first boyfriends and first girlfriends. Nice, so pure. My record's gone too cloudy for that. There's still time.
Miyu tells her the same thing you'd tell her. This is school romance, so I'm not going to sit here and count what she did and didn't do. What she's grieving is not body count. It's that age is just a number. Your past makes you who you are. Somebody is allowed to have a first and she isn't. She outsmelled every girl in the classroom, outloved them, outfought them. She dated enough people that she came out the other side feeling old, which is so the opposite of the majority of people nowadays who reach 30 without ever having handled anyone's hand and are still on the inside 17. Old outside, young inside. They know too much and feel too little. They love too much and they like too little. She is young and old. And here's the thing that makes her real in this genre and the whole medium, where the female cast is normally sorted into pure or fallen, and the fallen one exists to be a warning. Agasawa gives the experienced girl the epiphany instead.
Before we talk about not being treated well or bad luck with men, maybe the one being careless with me is me.
The girls envy her because boys they love don't love them back. Or they pretended to until they get late. She got it every time. Yet she comes out of every relationship emptier than she went in. That's a whole mechanism. Stated once and they never repeat for sympathy. I've quoted Prince Philip in my reviews before. The version the Crown built. He feels hollow, so he acquires. He's rich and powerful, so he can acquire endlessly. Wives, companions, titles. He was a pilot, grinding after marriage, so he transfers his pain on astronaut, idolize them, engineers a meeting with 3 men who walk away from the moon and find 3 ordinary guys with head colds and nothing to say. Nothing and outside was ever going to work. He ends up with faith and accepted his flaw that he could never be the man he wanted to be. No amount of sex could ever fulfill him in this way. Mayuko in Fruits Basket.
I don't date people because I'm lonely anymore. I found out it only makes the loneliness bigger.
Same discovery, 3 different rooms. Azuma got there at 17, without church and without decade of wreckage. And what she find is the only thing that was ever going to hold. Love loving not itself, none other can. She stopped auditioning for someone else's regard and started with the person she'd be treating worst. Also, and this matters for the episode, she has receipts.
What is done cannot be undone. I have my regrets, and I've thought about them.
She's the only character in the main cast who was already run the process. This episode puts everyone else through, which is why she can do to Taira what nobody else can. They are not opposites. That is the same sentence in 2 different handwritings. One boy is careless with himself by hiding. One girl is careless with herself by offering. Both were trying to be worth something in somebody else's eyes. It hails and it rains, and sky goes dark, it looks like night. Taira has no umbrella. Azuma spots him from a distance, tries to catch up and can't. When she finally reaches him, she's out of breath.
You walk way too fast.
A small comic sequence that's doing serious structural work. She asks if he has an umbrella. She hands hers over and starts to leave, cause what proof she's fine. He refuses. She pushes back. He refuses again. She gets exasperated and shouts at him a 3rd time. And finally,
Then at least let me be the one holding it.
the wind destroys the umbrella later. She laughs so hard she can't walk.
You broke it instantly.
He tries to fix it. He won't go back. So they run. Nobody is a giver now. There's nothing left to be in debt over. They make the train. Both of them are soaked and freezing, and she's still laughing about it 2 minutes later. His hands are the color of room meat. She looks over. She holds out a heat pack. Then score comes up and the show sits in silence for 4 seconds. 2 kids on the bench seat, train moving, nothing said.
Actually, yeah, thanks.
No thanks, no apology, no accounting. He asks for something out loud from the person standing right there, and the show gives that line as much room as it gives anything in the episode. If you rank everyone on a ladder, every gift creates a creditor and a debtor, and you can be someone's equal when you owe them. 4 seconds is how long it took him to decide to be cold instead. Then he changed his mind. She starts on his hair. Darker color next time, well-looking styling, it suits him. He deflects. If I did that, people would just think I hadn't watched it.
That's way too self-deprecating. Have some confidence in who you are now. You changed because you're into it, right? You're losing out if you don't enjoy it.
And his head,
That wasn't the reason. It was never a positive reason.
there's a girl's laughed again, and one word floating out last year.
3/4 sleeves, huh? It's a waste. All that effort and no confidence. I've been rooting for you the whole time.
And then, having dropped there, she announces the floor heating is nice and she's sleepy, tells him to wake her in the station and falls asleep on the spot. Now the cold open pays off and pays off when she's unconscious, right, which is the choice that makes it work. He dozes off too, and the filing cabinet opens.
Want to change your eyebrows? Your hair's lighter now, so if you shaped your brows to match it'd look way better. Oh, you styled your hair. Nice backpack.
What is it every single time?
And the verdict he filed on all of it.
She's laughing at me on the inside. Guaranteed.
Every one of those moments happening exactly as you remember. He clocked all of them as she's thinking something about me, and he was correct. He just never once answered she likes what I'm doing as an option. For a year. He says it later, and it's the most accurate self-description in the show.
I can always tell she's thinking something. I can never read what.
That's a real portrait of a self-conscious person. Hypersensitive, high resolution, and a calibrated wrong. She's asleep, so he says to nobody.
But the way you rooted for me was, I had it wrong the whole time.
They both slept through a stop. Rain stop when they get off.
For what? For falling asleep too and missing the stop.
Then he stops and reconsiders.
Hang on, was that only my fault? For lots of stuff, the umbrella, the heat pack, and everything else.
Everything. I don't really get it, but instead of weird deference and sorry, I'd rather have a nice or a thanks. Coming from you anyway, be more casual about it. We're friends.
It's lit, and I don't think she noticed. The monologue that ends in half is the best written passage in the episode, and works by refusing the obvious move.
Alone in the quiet, the memories go around and around.
He lists his vows and gets them all right.
Caring only about how he appears in other people's eyes. Putting pointless distance between himself and everyone because he doesn't want to be hurt. Self-abasement, runaway assumptions. One day, and the list of things to fix is already full. But more than that.
What actually stayed in his head was running like an idiot in the rain. How ridiculous the situation was, and how funny it was.
For some reason, only the small good things came back up. Happy, pathetic, relieved. He doesn't know which. He cries a little anyway.
Nothing was cured. The machine that spins memory in the dark is still running. Only the material changed. And the show pays that off in logistic instead of speech. On the platform, the last car, the far end.
Maybe I'll go back to my old carriage.
That is the arc. A boy decides to stand somewhere else on the train platform. Ridley Scott never shows us a tech shape. Augustov never shows us a changed man. She shows us a change of carriage and trusts you to draw your conclusions. Here is what I got wrong about the Rikako Honda on first watch, and maybe some of you. Pink hair, small, glamorous. She has a habit of sucking her lips to keep from smiling. Every visual sign says sweetheart, and the show has spent 2 seasons letting her operate as a group's sharp-tongue fixer without ever opening a scout. This episode opens it.
There's one thing I've been keeping from Nishi. When we met, I disliked you.
The flashback is smaller than confession usually is, and that's what makes it interesting. Nishi, stammering, asks whether the next class is in different room. Honda answers her, plainly, helpfully. Nishi thanks her, and Honda immediately regrets it, because she has been cast as a person who helps, and she knows what comes next.
When I see a problem, I can't settle down until it's fixed. That's all it is. It's not consideration. It's not kindness for someone else's sake. People always think I'm nicer than I am. I hate it. People come to me expecting to be comforted, and I'm bad at it. I can't do empathy. I can't say I totally get it.
So we watch it go run. The classmates complaining. Honda says,
The classmate, I'm upset because I can't.
it's easy to assume Honda is just smart girl surrounded by fools. But in a way, she is a great fool. She hasn't learned that most people don't want solutions. For them, complaining isn't a problem-solving step. It's the bread and butter. Complaining is their everything. And the classmates show their true colors.
Must be nice being so blessed. Me, though, you can act tough because you're pretty. People up there wouldn't understand.
And Honda, inside her own head, and then out loud before she can stop it.
Don't point the thorns that grew out of your own insecurity at other people.
Read those 3 sentences again as a sequence. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody insulted her. They just screamed out loud into her face that she has no emotions. That a girl who looks like that cannot be tired, cannot be lonely, cannot be bad at anything. Then they called her cold when she declined the part. There's a demand buried in it. Be smaller, weaker, and submissive. so you don't have to feel the distance. When Elsa Darting in 1883 describes being forced into a corset, she calls it prison designed to hide her strengths.
As if their lack of self-esteem or willpower should be my only concern. I will never live in that world again, where the weak would rather guilt the strong than become strong themselves.
Separated about a century and the ocean, Elsa in Wyoming and Rikako Honda on the Yokohama school stage are trapped in the exact same room. They want to become strong themselves rather than guilty. Elsa refuses and writes out into the world that doesn't care what the weak want. Honda is 15 in the classroom and has nowhere to write, so she does the opposite. She puts the dress on. The plan after that?
Definitely incompatible. Keep some distance. Play it cool.
Everything I've watched her be for 2 seasons is a costume she put on to stop people from asking her for something she cannot give. So Nishi is just like that. Timid, low confidence, will come to me for comfort, will be hurt when comfort doesn't arrive, will conclude I'm a bitch, and will leave. Typical girls. We've seen one, we've seen them all. Nishi got the same treatment as classmate. Watch the two receive side by side.
I wasn't asking for advice. You wouldn't understand. I didn't notice until you said it. Thank you for telling me. I see. That's another way to think about it.
Same Honda, opposite result. Nishi looks like the weakest person in this show and the most forgettable character in the media. Another type. Small, self-spoken, fringe in the eyes, apologies before she speaks. The median manufactured by the dozen. She exists to be protected, so the audience has something to feel necessary about. Her in the lineup with 100 others and we could not pick her out. Just one capacity most of them lack. She listens. That sounds like nothing, so be precise about it. Look at what the classmate did with the identical advice. They were never asking for solution. The complaint was a destination, not the root one. それができないんから悩んでるじゃん. It's a sentence that has closed the door it pretends to open. They heard every word and used none of that, because the transaction they wanted was sympathy, and sympathy only required that you make a noise back. A conversation shaped like a one-way street with a mirror at the end. The classmate heard her, Nishi listened, and she can because she can afford to.
Thank you for telling me.
Taking correction and keeping it costs something. You have to be able to hold you were wrong about this without it converting to you are worthless, and most people can't, so they arrange their entire social life to never be told anything. The girl who apologized for existing is the only one in the room who can be told the truth to her face. Nishi is not fragile. She's the toughest person in this episode.
I was the one being accepted.
She predicted withdrawal.
She was too kind to even notice she was being pushed away.
Nishi let her down by letting her up. The one person she had dismissed as beneath her was the one person who elevated her. The next thing is about putting things right.
So the least I can do is push her forward.
Honda's problem. Nishi's block isn't fear, it's permission. Even wanting it is ridiculous. You cannot argue someone out of that. She can destroy your case for her more quickly than you can build it. So Honda changed the question.
If you stay friends and he falls for someone else, could you cheer him on? Would you regret it?
Nothing was installed. Deserving never came up. Kahneman and Tversky put a number on why it works. Losing something hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. A gain is negotiable, and Nishi has already negotiated herself out of this one. A loss isn't. So Honda stopped offering her a boyfriend and starts showing her an empty chair. You could have him and you could watch him go.
Definitely, I want to be his girlfriend.
That's what girls look like here. Better than a grand confession or a dramatic speech in the ring. The girl who used to apologize for existing stepped into her own desire out loud to her friend's face. She lets it land. I spent 2 seasons in the title referred to Suzuki and Tani. Loud girl, quiet boy. Opposites attract, matching glove Christmas. That's a poster. That's what the show sells you in episode 1. Then episode 16 puts two pairs on screen and the whole thing turns over. Taira and Azuma looks like opposites. One hides from everyone, one stayed half the school. Same disease. Both are careless with themselves and neither can read how another person is feeling. Nishi and Honda look like opposites. One stammers and apologizes, one cuts to the bone. Same disease. Both are signed self by other people that has nothing to do with the one they've got. The weak Nishi turned up resolute. The kind Honda turned up composer fixer who hates being asked for comfort. They are only opposites in the way the world misreads them, which sends you back to the leads. Episode 15, Suzuki breaks down on the way to Shrine because of the pressure of being liked by his family. Tani, out of nowhere, tells his friends he wants to make the most of the time they have left. They seem to be opposites. In fact, they are two people with the same fear that can be taken away through opposite social settings. 谁和歹呢 君的不可 is a description. It's a mistake the characters are making and the audience makes it with them. People are not what they look like. Not the pretty girl who's the coolest true thing in the room. Not the boy who chose an empty train for no reason at all. Never. Nobody in this episode is told they were wrong. They just get handed evidence that all series stops holding. And then they sit along with it. On the train, on the walk home, in the room, and they let it spin. There's a version of the boy who never goes back to search a car, and there's a version of the girl who keeps playing good for 3 more years. They both got lucky. Somebody kept showing up with umbrella.